And Josephine Curran.
Michael Curran.
Where were you born?
25th of May 1930 in a place called Carnamoy in County Donegal, Ireland.
And I was born on the 19th of April 1929 in a place called Letterkenny, County Donegal, on the way up in the northwest of Ireland.
Where did your parents meet?
I'm not quite sure where they met. My mother had been out here in Australia for 5 years. She got married and came to Australia, and her husband died after about 4 years, and she went back to Ireland and she met my father, and he was a widower with 8 children, and she married him, and then they had 7. So, but I'm not quite sure where exactly they met. She lived in Carlow, which was down south in Ireland, and he was from Tyrone, so I don't know where they met exactly.
We never asked them those sorts of questions, and they didn't convey any information.
Nobody bothered telling us anything.
Mum and Dad, yeah.
Did your mothers work before they got married?
I don't think mine did.
Weren't allowed. There weren't enough jobs to go around for one thing, yeah.
To Australia, yes.
Yeah,
And,
there weren't enough jobs to go around in those days, so men would have been the breadwinners. My father was a printer by occupation, and he was a kind of manager of a printing office and a small store, toys and knickknacks.
Well, when did you come to Australia?
When? 1956. Yep. It was a great year. I don't know about a good year for wine, but it was a good year for us. '26 and 25, wasn't it?
I was 26, you must have been nearly 20.
I was 27. Okay.
We went to school on Saturday. He had a much harder time than I did because they used to have to go back at night time to study.
And Sunday as well.
And Sunday night we went back to study. Yes, that's right. We didn't have that yet. But we had school on Saturday as well as, you know.
With us, we called it college secondary school. It started, I think it was 9:25 in the morning, and there was a break for about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, 40 minutes at lunchtime. And then you go back, and you got out about 4:45, and you had to get back again. I think it was 5:30 for study.
Didn't
And there was a
Did you go until 4:45?
Oh, maybe it
Not
may have been
we got home about
3:30 and 4:45 back for study, and then you got a break for, I think, 3/4 of an hour, around about 7:45, and you had to get back at 8:30, and you stayed there until 9:45 generally at night time.
Much longer summer holidays than here.
Yeah,
You know, the
3 months summer holidays.
3 months
Yeah.
summer holidays. June to mid-June until September, wasn't
Yeah, about that,
it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would have liked, I would have liked to have been an architect, for example. But that's boyhood dreams, isn't it? I had to go into hospital then when I was 21, and I was in there for about 3 years, and recuperated then, got married and came out here. It was a pain, because I wanted to get out and get work and get married. It was a real pain. It was, I would get reasonably better, and they'd allow you had to stay in bed, but when I got up again my temperature went skyrocketing, so it meant I still had TB, and then they pumped air into your diaphragm to push up the diaphragm. My God, they come at you with a huge lance of a needle, and they'd say, would you like, there was a Dr. Clark, he was a crazy man, I reckon, and say, would you like a local anaesthetic? I said, yes, indeed, I would. So, but one time they did puncture some part of my gut, actually. My God, it was painful, very painful. So eventually, we were in a little village called Killybegs, which became quite a fishing port later on. And I was sent down to the county of Roscommon. What's the name of it?
Castlereagh.
Castlereagh. And eventually they said, oh, I'd have to have an operation. And the night before the operation came along and said, we won't be able to do you tomorrow. And I went bonkers. And they thought,
Better do.
I'd better do them. So they did me. And I was out in 3 months and never looked back. First of all, I was working with my uncle who had a fairly decent shop there. He worked in New York for a while and he came back and bought a shop. And then I got a job with the electricity supply board, and you won't believe this, I was selling electricity off a bicycle, you might say, going around the countryside. And it was an awful experience. Selling electricity to poor farmers who didn't have 2 pennies to scratch together, you know. You know, they'd have maybe 10 acres of...
They had this scheme, what they call the rural
It
electrification.
was, I'm sure it was good for them,
scheme.
but
And
I
he
didn't
was,
believe in it.
had to go around and measure up and tell them what it would cost and all that sort of thing. But I think it would be wonderful for them. He thinks he was diddling them, but anyway.
It'd be wonderful if they could afford it, the poor buggers.
What was the political situation like in Ireland when you were there?
Oh, there was no trouble, like,
No.
that's what you mean, is it, the
Yeah,
trouble between
yeah.
the South and Northern Ireland?
That was taken
There
for
wasn't-
granted, just that
There wasn't any trouble
it was
at
a
all.
natural division, the 6 counties, it was a natural division, been accepted. And my reading of it was that the trouble, you'd call it, started with the civil rights marches in the States, and a girl called Bernadette Devlin got that going in Northern Ireland. And but she was kicked aside by the hard men of the IRA then, and she disappeared off the whole thing.
Well, she was elected to Parliament, wasn't she?
Yeah, but she didn't.
I don't know that she was kicked aside, strictly speaking.
Well,
Do you think?
my impression was she didn't want to spill blood.
She was a very hard woman herself.
Yes.
I heard her, she was out here
Yeah.
years and years ago, and I heard her being interviewed, and she was giving Australia a serve about their treatment of the Aborigines.
Did you emigrate because the economy was so bad?
Yeah,
Oh
of
yes, we
course.
had to go
Oh,
somewhere. There was
Yeah.
no,
It was Canada or here.
yeah.
I got him thinking, I'm glad I didn't go to Canada. They're
We
cold.
didn't think we considered Canada at all, did we?
Oh, I was thinking of it.
Were you?
Yeah.
Don't think you told me.
Did you know anything about Australia before you came?
Actually, you see, my mother was out here for
Yeah,
5 years,
yeah.
and she used to be always telling us stories about Australia, which I didn't think she was lying, but I found it very hard to believe. But actually it was all true, really. It was things like having Christmas on the beach and this kind of thing,
Yeah.
which I found
Yeah.
very hard to accept. But I was always attracted to Australia, and then himself here had an uncle out
I had
here,
an old
he's a
uncle who
priest.
was a parish priest away up
Yeah.
in Donegal
Donegal.
at that stage, yeah. And I had a
And-
cousin actually who was a nun up around
Yes,
all over
that's
that
right,
area,
yeah.
moved around there. She was teaching in private
And although
primary
some of
school.
my half-sisters and half-brother were out here, I really didn't have much contact with them until after I came out here, but it was just, seemed to be the, you know,
The
I don't
natural
know,
place
the
to
natural
go.
place to go.
That or Canada.
Oh, very important, that was the centre of life, really.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The funny thing is that, well, I can only talk about our own family. It was a kind of puritanical Catholic religion, yeah, I would say. Whereas other people were much more free in a way in their religious beliefs and expectations and so on.
What do you mean exactly by other people, other religions,
Well,
or
no,
other
no,
people?
all
as opposed to
the
yours?
Catholics
Yeah, because
around us and all.
My
yeah.
mother was very,
Yeah, she was
she was
easy
ahead of her
going,
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I was talking to that about somebody this morning. In our day, you mustn't do anything on a Sunday, you know, anything or sewing or anything like that sort of thing. But she always did whatever she wanted to do because she reckoned the better the day, the better the deed. That was her reading.
That was the
situation.
prescription, yeah.
Yes. But religion was very important. I mean,
Oh,
life
yeah.
sort of centred around the cathedral. We've got a beautiful cathedral there.
And
Although it wasn't,
soccer
I never
and
called the
Gaelic
cathedral, it was
football.
always called the chapel, which is very funny really, and they still call it the chapel.
It was centred around religion and football, actually, if the truth be known. Yeah,
Well, it didn't
yeah,
centre,
yeah,
mine didn't
yeah.
centre around football.
I played Gaelic football, yeah, and I played soccer as well, yeah. I played for the county, in fact, just before I got, shortly before I got sick. it's an
That's what
amateur
the
game,
Australian
and it
rules
comes
is based on.
and it comes through as an amateur game compared to soccer. Today's soccer with professionalism, it's not in the same league at all. The control of the ball, all those sorts of things. You get good athletes playing it though, but you know, it's just a different league. And soccer's better, in my view, it's a much better game. Yeah. But in those days, of course, it was one of those things that Gaelic football, because of the it was showing you to be Irish as opposed to
They were trying to
English,
revive the national psyche, what?
Yeah.
Something like
And
that.
the culture and all
the
that.
culture
Went to
and
the culture
bring
thing,
back the
yeah.
language and all
Bring
that sort
back
of thing,
the Irish
which
language
never
and all
did
that
work
stuff.
really. But you couldn't get a job in the civil service or anything like that unless you had Gaelic, pretty good Gaelic. And then when we did our exams, you'd get 15% more marks, but you did everything through Gaelic. So here we were doing French through Gaelic and doing Latin through Gaelic and all that.
What boat did you come out on?
The Orchides, which went out of service, I think, just after we got here.
We got through just before Suez Canal closed as
we
well.
were the last one through the
Yeah,
Suez
yeah.
Canal before it closed down.
And we were down the bowels of the ship.
Yes.
E-deck.
But the Orchid, there's a model of the Orchides in the Maritime Museum, and it was a year or two ago. We went in there. I went in there, and I saw it.
Wasn't too bad for me, but it wasn't good for him.
I was sick, very sick, because I was pregnant, which I didn't know about at the time, but I was. And first 10 days was fine, but the next 3 weeks was awful. Except from when we came into port, the minute the engine stopped, I'd be fine. The minute the engine started again.
Were there lots of Irish people on this ship?
Mostly would be from Britain.
Mostly
You see,
from
there was the
Britain,
£10
Yeah.
thing. If you went to Britain and lived there first, you could get over here for £10 a slot, but you had to promise to stay for 2 years. I think we had to pay 90 or something, and then you got a lot of it except for £30 back or something when you get here.
But it were worth it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh well, it was completely new, wasn't it? The brilliant sunshine, and of course Perth is very much different to here, but it was more sort of, it wasn't such a shock, I think, as if we had come straight to Sydney, because it was more like a big country town in those days, wasn't it?
Well, I'll tell you, when I heard just off, how many miles or kilometres off Fremantle or Perth it was, when I heard the ABC playing the the tune in front of the news or the music, I thought, this is fantastic.
What did you think of Sydney when you first arrived?
And coming into Sydney on a brilliant April morning, my God, with the glistening water and Luna Park smiling at you.
An April
It
morning,
was just
which was absolutely
wonderful.
gorgeous.
This was a new life.
What did you think of Melbourne when you came through there?
All you could see, as far as the eye could see, was red roofs. I don't think I'd ever seen red roofs before.
No.
Probably, because we'd have slate, no grey slate usually, or thatch, but that was out in the country. We had to go to the movies because he's movie mad. We went to a movie in the afternoon, Love Was in Any Splendour.
That's right, yeah.
And another couple who were we saw the sign going in, no smoking. You see, in Ireland you could smoke in the cinemas. And we saw the sign, no smoking, because we were smokers at that time, but they came in and they didn't know, then they lit up, and of course the manager came tearing around and got them to put out the cigarettes.
Some of the memories I have are being in a tram going out to Kensington on the 56 Olympics and hearing, they must have had a radio on the tram, and Betty Cuthbert winning the 100 metres, I think it was, and what a great throw it was.
Do you remember much about your early days in Sydney?
Another thing that was a bit scary for a man coming from a small town was, we lived in Burwood for about 3 months to start, and coming by train and seeing, all the red roofs again. You're talking about Melbourne, all the red roofs, and coming through McDonaldtown station on a wet morning. My God, it was desolate looking. It reminded me of Portadown in Northern Ireland. It's the same sort of big station, yeah. and it was very desolate. I'm sure it could be an artist's haven to do something like, to paint something like that, but I find it very desolate.
How did you get your first job in Sydney?
My uncle thought he'd run me into various jobs. The only thing is he'd maybe 10:30 in the morning or something when he'd get me ready and go in, and of course the jobs had gone, or ring up and find out they were gone. So I just decided to go on my own. I went to a place called Express Tires, which is a Dunlop subsidiary. I didn't get that job, but then I went into Dunlops, who were in Wentworth Avenue, and I got a job there. And he thought this was wonderful. I was so enterprising. I think it was a relief for him too, for me to have a job. So I got a job as a clerk in Dunlop Rubber, and I stayed there for a couple of years. Then I started doing accountancy, and I went to what was then the Consolidated Press, Australian Daily Telegraph, Sunday Telegraph, before it was sold to Murdoch. Well, I started off as a clerk in the store down in the basement, like the Orchids. And then I became...
he was doing his accountancy course at this time, has he?
Yeah, and I've gone through my first year actually, and got good marks. And then I got assistant accountant, then I became accountant. And then I was dragoon, promoted to be assistant to the general manager. So that was an experience too, yeah. A fellow called Kerry Packer, yeah. Bigger than life, both physically and in other ways too, yeah.
What was it like working for Kerry Packer?
Kerry, I never thought he'd be as brilliant as he is. I mean, he makes bad decisions too, but Bruce Gingell, who was the first man on TV in Australia, Bruce used to say, I get 10% of my decisions wrong, but I reckon that's better than most. Well, I think probably Kerry the big decisions he made were great decisions. Yeah. And I advised him, why bust a gut? You're rich, why do you have to bust a gut? Kerry wanted to be richer. They were very funny in many ways. They could be tough people, and yet they did things that you said, oh my God, that seems out of character. They did good things as well for staff. That's the sort of people they were. They're bigger than life. They came from Ireland originally, the Packers.
I spoke to him once on the phone. Saturday morning he rang looking for Michael, and I said, I'm sorry, he's not here. He said, I bet you got him out doing the shopping. I said, no, I wouldn't trust Michael to do the shopping. He said, I would trust Michael with anything.
But he was virulently anti-Catholic, because I remember Clyde saying, imagine there were two Irishmen around, there was some sort of a dude, two Catholics around this table. My grandfather would turn in his grave. But it just shows you how Australia has changed. It's great, it's a wonderful change when you think of it, isn't it? It's a great change.
Do you have any children?
We had 4 boys and 1 girl. And somebody who didn't have any children asked me what I did in my spare time. So I was kept busy at that and making things run smoothly so he could devote himself to work.
What was it like for you when Michael was working?
Well, I was a bit lonely at times because Michael was out at work all day and there was no money to go flitting around or anything. And I never saw any of my own relatives for about he had brothers coming and going here, and he had his uncle and his cousin at Bathurst, but I never had anybody, so it was quite lonely at times, but gradually, got into it all. Didn't have much time, I suppose, for feeling lonely in a way.
And there's a story about Miss Martin in the confession. You should tell that one.
Oh yeah.
A well-known person.
You know about going to confession, I suppose, and they have confessional.
Yeah. People queued outside.
And in those days, a lot of people don't go now, but in those days lots of people would be going. So Miss Martin that we had the house with, she was over there waiting to go to confession, and there was a man there who was a pillar of the community there. And he was before her, you see, so he went in go to confession, and when he went in, the priest came out. As soon as he went in, for some reason, he might have had to answer a call of nature or something, but she went over and she opened the door and she said, he's gone for the police.
What are the big changes you've seen in Australia since you moved here?
The immigration,
Yeah.
the food, the variety, that
Variety.
much higher standard of living. The Sydney, how it's expanded tremendously. And even the trains, even when the newspapers talk about the crappy trains, when I went into town 20-something years ago, my God, they were real rattlers, red rattlers, I think they called them actually.
Yes,
You'd
red.
close the doors, or sometimes you wouldn't, and it would freeze you there. Now, I mean, they're terrific, and the stations look clean. I think it's beautiful.
The different nationalities.
Yeah, they add,
All the
oh yeah,
people.
oh
The
they
different
handle it
cultures
so
that
well.
rub off a bit.
Yeah,
So
and the variety of things in the shops,
Oh yeah, but
unbelievable.
he was living at work all the time, you see, and he didn't know until he retired that they had all these things in the shops. I don't know where he thought I was getting it all from.
What do you think about capitalism?
What did Churchill said? He said, "It's not capitalism is nothing great, but it's the best we have."
Did you have any social life when you were working?
He'd leave here at 5:30 in the morning and get home by 8:30 at night. He'd work all day Saturday as well.
But I stopped working on a Sunday. As I
Yeah,
got
but you
older.
quite often work here on a Sunday,
No, not much.
didn't you?
So social life, there wasn't that much social life, was it? But you know your own
I
social
had
life.
my own social life.
Yeah, that was my social life.
Well, I go to aerobics and I go to Tai Chi. Well, I'm not going to Tai Chi this year because they changed it the day, but I can do it here at home. And I go to different things from the church. They have a group up here, friendship group.